Hi, I'm Jennifer with Blaine Fleece and Fiber, and as we're getting ready to start our 2019 Year of the Fellow Sheep, I'm going to do videos showing how to, well, not how to spin each of the sheep, but give pointers, just things that I've noticed. And as I was spinning Black Velvet's roving, I thought that there were some tips that I could maybe offer, especially with the pre-drafting, and also a reminder not to put too much twist into it. So I'm going to show you how I do my pre-drafting and get you all set up with that, and then we'll talk a little bit about how I spin. So most of you know, I'm sure, because you've heard me yammer on about this, Icelandic sheep, their wool has two coats. They're dual-coated sheep. They have, and I'll just tear a little bit off here real quick. They have an inner coat called the fell, and as we're looking here, basically the really light colored fibers in there that are really incredibly soft, that's the fell. That's the inner coat that helps keep them really insulated, nice and warm. This was actually, it can be, the two coats can be separated, and folks in Iceland used to make underwear and baby garments and that type of stuff from the fell, just spinning that and knitting that. The other coat that they have, and you see these black, people call them hairs, but they're not hairs, they're actual wool fibers. That's the tog, and those are the outer coat fibers that help to waterproof them, keep them protected in really harsh weather. So what I've found, and I have not separated them out and spun them separately myself, I like how it turns out when you spin the two together. You get a nice, sturdy, soft yarn that felts down over time, and just the garment that you wear, the garment that you make from this gets warmer and warmer and softer the more you wear it. So just to understand why I do the pre-drafting a little bit more carefully with this than I maybe would another fiber, it's because I want to blend the tog and the fell, the outer and the inner coats, really nicely and smoothly before I start spinning. The roving, when it comes out of the carding machine from the mill, you'll see in your bumps of roving that there might be a little bit of inner coat kind of mashed up together here, and then as you go through, maybe another little thick bump of it right there. It's harder to spin if you just spin directly from this without doing any pre-drafting, and I'll show you the reason for that in a minute. So let me just show you how I do this. You can see that here I've got a tub that's already pre-drafted, and I can just take this and spin right from it. It's very airy. It's still held together nicely from the tog, and also I'm not pulling it real thin, which you'll see in a minute. But this is really nice to spin from because you don't have clumps of fell that you have to deal with as you're trying to spin. So that's why I recommend the pre-drafting. So when I do my pre-drafting, I just unwind a bunch from the ball, and I start at one end, and I just gently pull it like that. Real gentle. And I don't want to go, you don't ever want to pre-draft your fiber really, really thin, like to where you can't do any drafting at all. Drafting is still a very important part of the spinning process. So I just pull enough, you know, I'll come here and I'll see, and you'll feel it with your fingers when you're doing this too. I'll feel a little clump of fell right there. Just pull on that a little bit, and it just kind of attenuates. I'm not sure if that's the right word, but it kind of helps to smooth out and get all of those little fibers just nicely side by side in a nice, smooth piece of roving. So I will do this before I even, well, typically before I even start spinning, except sometimes, like, as you can see, I get excited and I start spinning. I'll pre-draft a little bit and then spin and then stop and pre-draft a little bit. And, you know, depending on your spinning style, that might be good. I've heard people say that if they spin for too long at a time, their spinning gets thinner and thinner. So maybe to be more consistent, it's good to stop and start a little bit. So pre-drafting, you know, however much you want to get done, and then doing that spinning, and then going back and pre-drafting some more might be good. Also, just a good tip with any sort of activity that you're doing where it's repetitive, take breaks, do lots of stretching. Don't get repetitive movement injuries. It's no fun. I speak from experience. That's why I'm giving you the tips. So as you can see, I've not pre-drafted it to the point that it's so thin I can't do any drafting. I've just gotten all of those little clumps of fell nice and opened up so that they're mingling and laying nicely next to all of the tog fibers. Okay, so that's enough for right now. I will go ahead and show you how I do my spinning. The key with Icelandic, I'm sure you've heard me say it before, I probably said it earlier in this video, is not to put too much twist. And the reason for that is that the tog fibers, the outer fibers, they do an absolutely magnificent job of holding the fibers together. And if you put too much twist in, like the same amount of twist that you normally do if you're spinning a merino or silk or targi, you're going to end up with rope. It just gets, which is awesome if you want to make rope, but it's not going to be real pleasant to knit with. The tog fibers do a lot of the holding together that you need. So trust the fiber to hold together. So that's my big tip with spinning Icelandic. I'm going to go ahead and just get this going. And I know it's hard for me to talk and spin at the same time, so let me say this before I start. I know that it's kind of hard to tell how fast I'm spinning. There's no way to measure this and show you precisely. Just take my word for it that I'm spinning probably half as fast as I normally would with other types of fiber. So you want to just slow it way down, okay? The other thing to notice is that when I am doing a short forward draft, I'm going to stop because I can't talk and spin at the same time. I am doing short forward draft, but I'm not pinching the fiber and sliding it hard along the length of yarn or the singles like I normally would either. That's gonna, again, it's gonna be really hard to see, but my goal is that I don't want to felt down all these fibers as I'm spinning. So I'm trying to have a really loose hand with these two fingers and let some air in there while I'm drafting. So I'll just get it going again here. And my plans for this is a 2-ply. I'm not going to leave it as a single. I know that, you know, spun singles of Icelandic fiber, the Lopi yarn, is very popular. I like how the 2-ply turns out, and you gotta love 2-ply because it helps smooth out inconsistencies in your singles. Okay, I'm gonna add another bit on here. If you can, Elise, also show the wheel spinning. I'm not sure the best way to show how slow I'm going, so feel free to move around. And every once in a while I will stop and do a pullback test. So I wish you could feel this. It's very soft. It's very nice. You know, for me, I don't think of Icelandic as particularly coarse, but this does feel to me next to skin soft. It's not rope-like at all, so I know that this is what I want. And like I said, I just check that every, come on, I don't know how often, every few minutes maybe. Come on. Oh, this is interesting. I've not done this before. Okay, well I've made, let's see. Yeah, I made a little knot in there. That's not happened before, so I'm going to just pull this right apart here and get rid of that. Okay. Typically the pullback, or the, yeah, pullback tests don't do that, so that was weird. But I was able to show you that I am getting the, sorry, again, I'm trying to talk and do things with my hands at the same time, and I can't do that. Okay, there we go. When you are getting, you know, adding more fiber on, and this is the same holds true for any kind of fiber, just make sure that your fiber is opened up when you're adding your new length of roving on there. And then the fibers will all catch and they'll be just dandy. It's so funny. It's like, what is it, chewing gum and patting your stomach or something at the same time. I can't do that either. So I'll just show you a little bit more of this. And as I come to those places where there might still be a little bit of tog, little thick patch, I just very carefully pull that out and draft it away, you know, away from itself, and just keep it going. Trying to maintain a somewhat consistent speed, and also making sure that I'm not, you know, death gripping this right here. I have a very light hold on it as I'm feeding it through. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and let's stop for another flyback test. Yep, still looking the way I want it to, still feels the way I want it to. So I know that it's doing, I'm doing what it's doing what I want it to do. Wow. All right, so that's how I spin Icelandic. I am not sure at this point if I will do a separate video for Panda Bear. Her fiber is slightly different than Black Velvet's, but I'm not sure if it's different enough to warrant a separate video. So I will see what I think as I am spinning Panda Bear's roving, which I'll do next, I believe. And then I will move on to Daisy and Cupcake, and I'll definitely do a video there showing the Hampshire Suffolk being spun. So that's it. So thank you very much for watching, and I hope that you're enjoying the sheep to project stuff we've got going on at Blaine Fleece and Fiber on Ravelry. Okay, thank you very much. Bye.